Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Don't be alarmed by my room. I know it's a lot, but I spent a long time gathering all the stuff in here and I like it, so I hope you guys can appreciate that much at the very least. Besides the point, I'm back. It's been a while. I was at school, then I was in Japan. Everyone and their mom is in Japan right now, but now I'm back and I'm hoping to put out videos at least once or twice a week. That might not happen, but I do want to get back into this because I have ideas and honestly sometimes I just want to talk into the void, and if people respond, that'd be pretty cool, I guess. But anyways, let's get into the topic of today's video. Now, if you're a fan of superheroes, then you may have noticed an interesting pattern when it comes to superhero spouses and supporting characters. A strangely large amount of them are reporters or photographers or journalists or otherwise associated with the news industry. And if you don't believe me, let me list a few of them off and you can tell me if it's a little egregious or not. We have Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, Perry White, the entire Daily Planet supporting cast. We have Karen Page and Ben Urich. In the Daredevil comics, Ben Urich was the main reporter guy and Karen was like the secretary for Foggy, for Nelson and Murdoch. But in the show, she's been an investigative journalist since like season 2, I want to say. Then we have J. Jonah Jameson, Betty Brant, the whole Daily Bugle. And I know I mentioned supporting characters, but specifically, a lot of these people are also like significant others or spouses. We have Cat Grant. We have Mary Jane from the Insomniac Spider-Man games. She's basically like a Lois Lane light in that in those games. We have Tana Moon, who it's a bit of a deep cut, one of Superboy's first girlfriends, who just so happens to be a reporter. Iris West, Linda Park, Vicky Vale, and Alexandra DeWitt, rest in peace. The woman that gave us the term fridged. She was a photographer for a news company, not a journalist, but my point stands in that there are many spouses, supporting characters, etc. that are journalists or, adjacent occupations, and have some honorable mentions as well. We have Dinah Lance in Smallville. She was a reporter that kind of like opposed Lois Lane a couple times. We have Jack Ryder from the Batman mythos, and he's like a news broadcaster who also has like an alter ego of his own. And then we have Allegra Garcia from the Flash TV series, who was also like an editor. It's been a while since I watched that show, but I think she was like an editor for a news site as well. Anyways, besides the point, my question is, why are so many of these supporting characters journalists? I want to make it clear that I don't take any issue with this being the case. It's just something that I was curious about and felt like discussing at further length. Now, right off the bat, the easy reasoning that I came up with as to why there are so many fictional reporters, especially in superhero media, is that they're always trying to go right where the action is. This often results with them getting in trouble, and then the hero has to save them while maintaining their own cover. And we've seen dozens of examples of this from like Lois Lane and Superman alone, but this also exists as a dynamic in the Flash TV series with Barry and Iris, and even in Batman properties like Batman 89 and the Arkham games with Vicky Vale. This kind of dynamic is present in a whole bunch of things. Now, this is a straightforward enough reason, but additionally, the Spider-Man games has this dynamic as well. Mary Jane keeps getting into trouble because she's chasing a story, and Spider-Man keeps having to save her. But this is a straightforward enough reason, sure, but I didn't think it was enough to justify the sheer amount of people that are reporters, journalists, etc. So I decided to see if anyone else online was curious about this. Now, there were a few think pieces that I read, but one that I gravitated towards was a short article by the Weekly Ringer, which is the University of Mary Washington's student newspaper, and they interviewed a couple of students at the university about this very topic. Now, one student, and I'm not doxing them, this was in the article. The article is linked in the description if you just want to read it for yourselves. It's really short, so I recommend it. But one student, Jimmy McGuire, said that a reporter's job is to reveal secrets, and if the hero in question has an alter ego, having a reporter in their cast of characters can act as a way to build intrigue and tension. And this is very true. Again, like I mentioned with the kind of circumstances before, this is like a classic story for a hero. They have like a reporter that's on them, and the reporter happens to be someone they're into or that's into them, blah, blah, blah. But again, like my original reasoning, I felt this was a bit, not weak, like it's fine, but it's a bit too surface level, and it happens so much that I felt like I wanted to try to delve into this a bit deeper. Now, English major Ginny Bixby said that she enjoys the presence of reporters in superhero media because it subtly tells consumers that journalists are, quote, and I quote, smart, dedicated, and valiant people, especially in the current political climate where there's a lot of anti-journalist rhetoric, unquote. Now, I found this to be an excellent point, and it's the one that I latched onto when I was looking for a deeper reason as to why there are so many reporters in media. Now, characters like Lois Lane, for example, have become iconic in their own right. They're a symbol of what the everyman can do to help larger-than-life heroes like Superman. And look no further than James Gunn's new Superman movie, where, yeah, Clark saves the day and saves Metropolis from being split into half, but at the end of the day, it was the combined efforts of the Daily Planet crew, which was mostly Jimmy and Lois, let's be honest, but it was the combined might of that crew who actually managed to put Luthor away for good. Then take someone like J. Jonah Jameson, for example. He often takes the opposite side of the journalism kind of like spectrum that we see in comics. He highlights how biases and misinformation can be widespread and, be a detriment to people like Spider-Man or like others. And I can honestly say this because growing up, JJJ essentially taught me to not believe everything that I read because he lied about Spider-Man so much. And I was like, if the leader of a reputable news company can get away with so much lying, I'm sure this can happen a lot. And this was me when I was 8 years old. I was having these thoughts oh, maybe I shouldn't believe everything that I read online or everything that I read in a book, or you should have your own thoughts and stuff. And then ironically enough, J. Jonah Jameson was one of the first indications of that. By utilizing normal people in these contexts, we're able to not only educate, but then see how a difference can be made without these great big powers. And yeah, it's something to be said that even in the past, journalists were considered heroes for the dangerous situations they found themselves in, and the insane things that they had to do to get a story out. And so having journalists stand side by side with these larger-than-life heroes, especially back in the day, is something that makes a lot of sense and that I respect a lot. However, that being said, especially in the modern day, I do have some gripes with this trope, and that's simply that there's too many of them that follow this trope. When I first had this realization, I couldn't believe how many there were, and I couldn't believe how many I could name off the top of my head. For fuck's sake, the second and the third Flash both have journalist wives. It's I just feel like it's overkill at some point. Now, are the characters worse off? No, but I do think it made some of the stories, especially the ones that adapt the early days of a hero, it feels pretty same-ish. The back and forth, the intrigue, the tension, will they find out because of their investigation, all this stuff, it ends up feeling kind of samey, and that's why growing up, a lot of superhero origin stories, even ones about different heroes entirely, felt oh, we've done this before, we've been here before, can we move on, that kind of thing. And so therefore, I think there are plenty of other occupations that one could idealize in order to create similar feelings of tension in a story. I mean, people already do it. We had Jim Gordon as a cop, who's a cop, and Foggy Nelson, who's a lawyer, two separate everyman kind of occupations that also add a lot of tension and intrigue to a story, and they're not necessarily reporters, and they have a reason to be in the middle of the story or be in the middle of a conflict. I want more stuff like that. Having Superman's entire supporting gallery of characters fall into some variation of the intrepid reporter trope, it feels a bit lazy to me. Even though they're all, very distinct, iconic characters in their own right, I wish there was a bit more variety in the supporting cast of characters. Especially since a lot of them, we have Perry, Lois, and Jimmy, but a lot of the other ones aren't really developed beyond a surface level, at least not in the same way that those three are. I especially don't like it when characters who have been historically a certain occupation or a certain way are then changed to fit this new mold. For example, and I'm looking at you, I am Insomniac Mary Jane, Walmart Lois Lane looking ass character. There's nothing wrong with reporters, and there's nothing wrong with a character choosing to be a reporter, but Mary Jane has always been an artist, a model, an actor, and that kind of job needs representation too, especially listen, I understand making a bunch of characters reporters back in the day because being a reporter was a pretty heroic thing to do, and you want a supporting cast that can stand on equal footing with your superhero character. But I mean, we've come a long way since then, and there are plenty of occupations and plenty of every job is important. So taking your character who's, you know, historically like a model, an artist, an actor, and being like, you know what, let's just make her Lois Lane. It's like, it's kind of boring, and that's why I think a lot of people don't love Mary. Like, listen, that's a whole other video about how people dog on Mary Jane in the Insomniac games. I think the hate is undeserved, but I do think that her character is a little bit more boring and a little bit more just like Lois Lane-ish, because, oh, I'm chasing a story. Oh, I'm in trouble. Spider-Man, help me. Oh, you help me. I don't need your help. I'm strong and independent, and I keep getting myself into crazy situations that end up. Okay, that's, you know, again, besides the point. But I could talk about. I don't love how they handle her character in those games. But that's besides the point. If writers want her to be wrapped up in a conflict to create more tension, then manifest a situation where an actor would end up in that situation. Instead of like, we have to make her a reporter so that, you know, every single thing that she does puts her into potential trouble, and then there's a reason for conflict. Like, I just feel like there's other things you can do. Anyways, mini rant about Insomniac Mary Jane over. I also think having more J. Jonah Jameson types isn't a bad idea. Because while the world of comics does idealize these real jobs to reflect a better reality, comics also reflect the real world, and JJJ is an amazing reflection of that concept. So utilizing more gray area people or antagonists that are regular Joes that are still able to be a thorn in a superhero's side, I think that can make stories even more personal. I also think a lot, like, okay, like, this is off topic a little bit, but I think a love interest that's like a paramedic could be really funny, or like I mean, there's a couple that are doctors, but imagine Daredevil, like, beats people up and then goes home, and then, you know, his girlfriend's not there, and then his girlfriend comes home late and is like, sorry, like, that maniac Daredevil broke a bunch of people's bones. I had to work like a double shift tonight. I'm sorry about that. And then that gives you, like, you know, an extra layer of tension. It's like, well, I have to do my job and stop these criminals, but then I feel bad as I'm making my girlfriend's life harder. Just then she has to work double shifts to clean up my mess. And, you know, there's like a tension there that is, I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe I haven't read enough comics, but there's like a dynamic there that's unexplored, and I think something like that could be more interesting than just the whole typical, I'm chasing a story, or I'm in a place where I'm not supposed to be, or I have to get that photo, like Jimmy Olsen, I have to get that photo of that guy to get that the promotion, all this kind of stuff. It's just, as much as I appreciate all these reporter-oriented, journalist-oriented occupations and characters, I do think that, like, as, you know, as readers mature and as the times change, we can afford to do something a little bit different, and we can afford to kind of change the way these characters work. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with investigative journalist types, but after realizing just the sheer amount of them, I'm thinking it could be time for a change. Anyways, I love the reporter archetype and what it represents in both fictional and real contexts. I think it's okay to experiment with a couple of new ones and then implement them into a story that way. But that's basically all I wanted to talk about, just how crazy it is that there's so many of these kinds of characters of varying qualities. And I just wanted to discuss why I think that is, and how maybe we could move on from it a little bit while still maintaining what makes the dynamic work so much in the first place. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you all have a great day. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. I don't know what the next one's going to be or when it's going to come out, but for everyone that tunes in for these, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you all later.